All right, so it is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce somebody who I have known for a long time. This is I would say, should be every young woman's dream, okay? To be like my friend Rachel Schmidt, okay? She grew up forging knives, fighting brothers, fighting off boyfriends, tackling wild rivers, wilderness areas, and going on to mold two fine young men in outdoor pursuits. She has been a tireless advocate, volunteer. She's a fellow Montanan, graduate of the University of Montana, been involved in the shooting sports. She can throw a fly farther and more accurately than most anybody in the room. She can paddle through Class 5 whitewater. She can pack a well-designed Bloody Mary bar, put together a 3-layer chocolate cake, or a pineapple upside-down cake, God forbid, in a Dutch oven alongside the river. She can do it all. She's bear-aware, and she's a heck of a storyteller. She's going to lead us off tonight. Please welcome Rachel Schmidt. Yeah.
I have a debilitating fear of heights associated with cliffs, edges, and precipices. I hate hiking. And I fucking hate backpacking. I wrote all 3 of these statements verbatim on the client outfitter questionnaire I sent into my outfitter after I made my first payment on my Dall Sheep hunt in the Northwest Territories. I believe in being honest. You need to know what you're going to get. When I decided I wanted to go on a sheep hunt, a Dall sheep hunt, my buddy turned to me and he said, "But why do you want to go on a sheep hunt?" I know that there's not supposed to be any such thing as a stupid question, but this is the stupidest question I've ever heard in my life. I am a warm-blooded human that hunts. I want an opportunity to hunt a sheep. I want an opportunity to kill a sheep. And I can, so I'm going to. And that's exactly what I told him. He was just not happy with that. No, there's gotta be more of a reason. It was just really annoying for me, so I didn't give him another reason. But I want you all to know that the reason I hunt, and the reason I wanted to go on a hunting adventure to hopefully shoot, but hunt a Dall sheep, my why are all of the lessons that I learn, the reminders that I get, the little aha moments I get about myself and about the world around me while I'm on a hunt. And so I really couldn't say why I was going on this sheep hunt. I would know after I was on this hunt why I had gone. So I booked myself a Dall sheep hunt. I believe it was like March of 2021. I decided to buy this for my 44th birthday. I mean, every woman needs a good way to rationalize spending money, so I was like, happy birthday to me! I'm gonna buy myself a sheep hunt. So, bought myself a sheep hunt, tell John Gale this, and he was like, oh, hot tip, you got 18 months to train for this. Fill up a bunch of dry bags with cement, like concrete mix. Super, super heavy, and you can pack that around in your packs. And that'll, train you up. And I was like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. So if you know me, I like to float rivers and drink beers, and not because I don't like really hiking. But I feel like I put in a solid B+ effort on the whole training for 18 months. I was skinning the mountain. I was hiking with 25 to 55 pounds of concrete. And so I really had been working on this. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. If you ask my boyfriend how much I was doing, he was like, good God, is it ever gonna end? I was very thrilled 3 weeks before my hunt to throw all of that cement away in the garbage and never look at it again. So here we are, summer of 2022, August, okay? It's just last August. And 3 days of travel, get to Edmonton, stay the night, travel to Norman Wells, stay the night. And as I'm running across, you start running into other hunters, when you're on your way to trips. And every time I'd run into them, I was getting a lot more whys. Why are you on a sheep hunt? Especially when people were finding out I was a single solo woman going up there. Why are you going on a sheep hunt? And again, I'm like, I desire to hunt a sheep. And that was all I loved. So get up there. Okay, so then this is the morning. So it's a 10-day hunt, but you have day 0, right? Day 0, and then 10 days, because you need to fly in. So 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm standing at the hotel. We're getting in our ride to go, go off to the bush plane company, right? And then they take you out to base camp. And I'm standing at there and I'm checking out. I am fully in camo. They want you to be ready to go when you hit there. I've got a backpack sitting next to me, and the most adorable little old woman runs up to me. Are you going hunting today? And I was like, I am going hunting today. She's like, what are you hunting for? I was like, well, I am going to be hunting for sheep. I was just sheep hunting with my husband as well. And I was looking at her, I'm like, what? And she points to her husband, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, my brain is like fried, it's like short-circuited. She's like, okay, so I shot my sheep on day 1, and he shot his sheep on day 3, and I just really hot tip, do you have any electrolytes with you? And I'm like, I do have electrolytes with me. She's like, well, my husband's legs started cramping up about, coming down after his sheep, and so I just really drink your electrolytes so your legs don't cramp up. I'm like, I'm fried. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, fast forward. This lady told me this story. I'm like, if they can do this, I got this. Like, I so got this. So I fast forward, we get to camp, I pick up what is a Santa Claus-sized bag of food. That is what, the 12 days of food looks like. I was wondered what that would look like, 12 days of food in the sack. Cram some food down, check my 0, jump in an aluminum tin can with wheels and wings, and they send me out 9 p.m. My guide had been out there since 10 a.m. They drop me off. Here I am. Okay, so sitting around, you want to get to know your guide, and we're chatting it up, and I relate the electrolyte lady story to him, and he just looked at me and goes, oh, honey, she took a helicopter to get her sheep. And I was like, fair. So, why? So when I say why, appearances are not always what they seem, right? We all need to know that. Just because someone posts something on social media, you gotta go, I'm not really sure. Anyway. So, of course, there's our first night. We wake up the next morning, and we're packing everything up. It's day 1. We're headed out. I get my pack out. Again, I'm looking at the Santa Claus bag of food. I'm getting it all in there, and I get this. I've got a stone glacier. It's the skyscraper. It is a big bag, and I get it all in there, and Kent, the guide, looks at me. He's a delightful guy, but man, Bill, you didn't warn me. Sheep hunting guides, they're a different breed. So he looks at me, and he goes, oh my God, what is in your bag? And I'm like proud, because I got it all in there. It is 18 inches above my head by the time we get it going. And I was like, it is everything you told me to pack. He's like, no, really? The bag's so big. I'm like, this is the bag on the list you told me to purchase, and it contains everything you wanted me to bring, plus a couple doubles. I have some trust issues with people taking care of me outside. I want to take care of myself. And he goes, wow, we just never have anybody show up with the right gear. They never have a bag big enough, and they really never have the right stuff. Why? They're men. They're men. They're not reading the instructions. Not reading the instructions. So, that's okay. It's okay. So, I tell him, I was like, hey, all right. He's like, can you carry that? And I was like, look at these guys. Check out this squeeze hips. I was made to carry this stuff. Once we get it on me, I can go. He's like, okay. I'm like, but here's a little problem. I did tear my rotator cuff when I was heaving things on, so if you ever want to help me lift this bag up on my back, that would be great. He's like, yes, we got a deal. This is going to come back later. So, I can't tell you everything about this, but of course, this is the Northwest Territories. It is this vast area. I thought I knew what wild country was. I thought I knew what big country was. The First Nations land that we were hunting, just this one outfitter's territory, is 3 times the size of Yellowstone National Park. There are areas that he had never seen. So just to give you the cliff notes, we are headed up a valley. I think it was a 30-mile long valley. At the end of every valley is a mountain pass, and we were headed to go up and over a pass. Now, just so you know, we moved camp 6 times. We did well over 90 miles on this trip, and lots of hiking. And we take off on day 1, and I noticed that Kent is a ways away from me, and at first I'm like, I will keep up, and I'm like, oh God, this is a bad idea. But I noticed, so he waits for me, and about the second time he waits for me to catch up, he's like, hey, just so you know, again, nice guy, we were getting along great. I really don't like the sound of a human voice. And the only thing I hate worse than a human voice is the sound of human footsteps. And the sound of your hiking staffs on rocks is really, really bugging me. So I'm just gonna always be like 100 yards ahead of you, and then I'll just wait for you once in a while. Awesome, small talk out of the way. There's no small talk happening, no problem, this is good. Okay, but a lot of miles, that's a lot of miles. You know that every step you have to concentrate. There's no such thing as a free step in sheep country. So again, the days go on, we finally get to the back of this, we hit like sheep Shangri-La, there are sheep everywhere, but none of them are shooters. In this situation, a shooter, they don't care if there's a 7-year-old world record standing in front of you, no amount of money will get you that sheep. This has to be a 9-year-old sheep or older. So we were just looking at the sheep and we were going, it was great. Get to the back there, I told you I don't like heights. And I played this game with myself. I was turning 44. That year, so I would take 44 steps at a time, and I couldn't rest until I would take 44 steps. And that is how I got to the top of mountains, that is how I got over passes. And of course, we get to the top of this pass, and I can just see that it is this massive grassy cliff. And I'm like, here we are, my purgatory. And I turned to Kent, and he's like, oh, taking the view, and then we're gonna head off, I think that way. And I was like, what do you mean you think? He's like, well, I haven't been here for like 8 years. So I think we head off this way, and there's just this scree area, and then we'll get down, which is delightful. The anxiety burling up inside of me for what was going to be over this edge was killing me. So finally I was like, I can't wait anymore, let's go, let's go, let's go. Needless to say, it was a half-mile scree band above about a 2,000-foot sheer cliff that I had to traverse to get off of this pass. And it was all I could do to just fight through the tears and keep breathing and keep my muscles going and follow his footsteps. And every once in a while he'd turn around, and he would always do that. He'd turn around, you good? And I'd always be like, I'm good, go. Yeah, I'm good, go. I'm good, go. And he turned around and I was like, I am not okay. I need you to just keep moving. I just need to follow your steps. But I got off it. Then you know you have to go down, So then there's days of downhill, and it's, I don't know, day, I think 6, and we've, moved camp, we've come down, a lot of days of down, we were doing day hikes, sometimes we'd move the camp 6 miles and do a 10-mile day hike on top of it. You just keep going and going and going. And so about day 6, he turns to me and he always does you good? And I said, you know what? I feel like I'm at a point of diminishing return. I'm really tired and I hurt and my knees are really barking at me. And he goes, well, you should learn not to listen to them, shouldn't you? And he turned around and left. And that's fair, right? Like, okay, that was the part. I had so many miles and days, just me, myself, and I in my head, no music, no podcast, no nothing to distract me. And if you guys know me, I am a social beast. I love you people. I love your energy. I had a lot of me time going on. There was music in my head I didn't know was there. Apparently, I'm a big fan of Maroon 5, and I don't even have any of their albums, and I'm a big fan of Gwen Stefani, who knew? And anyway, so we're going, and finally we set up camp that night, and it was just a long day. I had a lot of time to myself. The next morning, day 7, wake up, and it is pouring rain, and you can barely see I could barely see Kent's tent. And it was great. I needed rest. We were reined in the whole day. I had a little time to read. Self-Reliance by Emerson is probably the most important work of literature in my life. I always read it once a year. I read it that day, and then I read it again, and then I read it again that day, and again. So if you've ever sat in a tent for 24 hours, you know where I'm going with this. But I needed the rest. So morning of day 8, awesome. I had that time, and why? I don't spend a lot of time with myself, and I really got time to say, you know what, I do like me still. I like my company, and I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of what I've done. So it was great. So morning of day 8, we're just going to take a small little 10-mile day hike, up this canyon or up this side channel, always glassing, seeing lots and lots of sheep and no shooters. And I noticed, as you're hiking, you start noticing patterns in your head, and we're a mile up this drainage, and all of a sudden I hear, this shit is bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, and I'm like, ugh, I feel like I hear that, why is Gwen Stefani, the shit is bananas, hollaback girl in my head. And I look to the side and there's 2 grizzly bears 100 yards from me heading up the stream bank. I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. Like, I've been hearing that song when I see bears. No, I'm imagining this. I'm totally imagining this. Well, it was like 3 miles later, we get to the back of the basin. And all of a sudden, this shit is bananas, B-A-N. And this time I'm like, done. Like, where is it? 30 seconds later, there's a grizzly bear at 300 yards in front of me. Kent, head over to this side. The bear's going up around this side to our right, and so we just cross the dried stream bed, get a little bit of elevation. We watch him, he's hunting for ground squirrels. Great, get a little bit more elevation, we're watching him, but then, oh, there's a ram up here, and we're looking at him. Oh, and then this big herd of mountain caribou spilling out over here, and oh, let's look at those. And then we're looking at this, and where'd the bear go? Where's the bear? Kent, where's the bear? And we look down, and he has popped out at 170 yards in front of us, staring right at us. And Kent says, back up, get elevation, back up, get elevation. So we start backing up. It lasted 20 feet. The bear locked in on us. He was keyed into little movement. He was hunting ground squirrels. We're in camo, little movements. He is keyed in and he starts coming. And Kent just says, start shooting. And so I did. And I laid 3 rounds at the grizzly bear's feet, shattering rocks. I stopped him. I turned him. He turned back. I stopped him at 100 yards. He turned back to the bank, turned back at us, thought about it again. I laid another round into his feet, and he ran off. And I did it so calmly, and Ken was like, nice work! And I'm just like, holy shit! I have always wondered if I could maintain my composure. I grew up in grizzly bear country. We have an agreement. Stay the hell away from me, and I'll stay away from you. But a lot of bears. I'd always wondered, could I do it? Could I maintain my composure? I could. Well, then I had 5 more miles from where we were back to our tents to really contemplate the choices I had made in life that had led me to this point. And I'm really second guessing it. What the hell am I doing here? I'm shooting at grizzly bears to stop them from killing me. I'm traipsing around in the middle of the wilderness. I'm flying in tin cans. I have 2 children at home. What am I doing? I get back to the tent, I have an in-reach, and I had been messaging my sons, my mom, and Jeff, and I messaged Jeff. This is my boyfriend, he's subjected to this again, right here, sitting with me. And I said, hey, don't tell my mom and don't tell my kids. I had to shoot at a grizzly bear today to stop it from charging me, and I'm done. I'm over this. Like, I need to be home. Like, what am I doing? And about 10 minutes goes by, and he messaged back, and he says, yeah, I'm sure that was a really hard situation, but if I were there, I would slap you on the ass and tell you to get back out and finish what you started. And straight up, that's what I needed to hear, right? Like, that's what I needed to hear. It was day 8. I hadn't seen a shooter sheep. I had been talking to myself about, like, okay, am I okay with this? This is a hunt. I'm not rich. I don't get to go back next year or in 5 years. This is my once in a lifetime. Am I okay with this being a hunt and not a kill? Well, the thing you don't know is I got home, or I got back, into cell service, and I called him, and he was like, I did not want to say that. I wanted to say, get to an airstrip, pack up now, get home, get safe, but he didn't. But here's the thing, here's a why. The universe is always talking to you, but sometimes you don't listen, you need to listen. The fact that I had a day rest when I needed it the most, the fact that Gwen Stefani is hollering back at me when a bear is around, the fact that Jeff decided to say something that he didn't really mean, but to keep me going, like, that's universe energy coming at us, okay? We need to listen. So that was day 8. Day 9, it's my last day. And I wake up and I open my eyes and I just hear the rain. And I'm like, this is how I go out. I go out sitting in my tent in the rain. And so me had a lot of thinking about that. And we thought and we talked about it, and we were moving forward with it. But about 11 o'clock, like, I didn't hear the rain anymore. And honestly, like, when you don't hear the rain, you're like, oh, I need some warm water. I just want a mountain house, or like whatever, right? So we jumped out and we're making some water for some coffee. And all of a sudden, you know how when you're in those thick weather systems, right? And the clouds, all of a sudden they breathe, and all of a sudden it goes, and then it can do one of these. Well, all of a sudden it just goes, and it went right to the tippy tops of this valley we were in, the mountaintops. And I'm drinking my coffee in my long underwear. I'm sure it was a really good look. And I see 2 white dots running down the mountain. And these are dots. Like, this is so far away. Like, halfway up the mountain's 2.5 miles. And I'm like, Kent. He's like, what? I'm like, 2 dots, white dots running down the mountain. Grab my binoculars. I can just make out that one of them is definitely a ram. He makes it halfway down the mountain and jumps behind kind of this big bluff, right? This big bluff that is behind there. And there's 2 ewes and 2 babies on the front of this bluff, but they dive behind it. And he just looks at me and he was like, and it's kind of stopped raining. He's like, we're going. And I'm like, all right. You're like, I just talked myself up. Okay, we're doing this. So we get all of our stuff on, it instantly starts pouring rain again. Across the tundra, up to a dry waterfall bed that's about 1 mile long, bouldering up it. It's socked in, all the fog comes in, it's just pouring rain. And then have you ever tried to get veggie holds in the tundra on, the veggie hold is the stupidest thing ever in that situation. And we're just like climbing up to get around this bluff. We get up and all of a sudden what happens? It breathes, it goes just a tiny bit. And we can see him at 700 yards. And it's 2 rams. So we get into 326 yards, lay down. He tells me, lay down, get into a shooting position, get comfortable behind the gun. It's pouring rain, freezing cold. I'm sweaty, it's freezing. And he goes, okay, but he's got to look at it. He's got to make sure he knows how old it is. And he says, I can't tell. I just can't tell. I don't think he is. And in my mind, I'm like, But I'm looking at this sheep through my scope, and I know it's my sheep. I had dreams about this sheep. I saw him in my dreams, and I know this is my sheep. And I'm thinking, no, it's totally my sheep. He's looking and minutes go by. And I realized, no, you know what? He might not be, this is my sheep, but I might not be able to shoot him. And at that moment, such peace. I had peace, because all these years, I'm always telling everybody, I'm in it, I love the hunt. I'm in it for the hunt. I don't have to kill anything. I love the hunt. Well, do I? Because this is a big deal. Am I really okay with this? And I was so okay with it, and I was totally at peace. He is my ram, but that he was teaching me that lesson. I was totally at peace with it. And then that's when Kent says, he's yours, do you want to take him? I'm like, yeah, I do. And the sheep laid down. So I had then time to think about this. Oh my God, this is my ram. Oh my God, this is my sheep. And I'm laying there and I'm freezing and I'm shaking and I can't feel my trigger finger and I'm sticking, I'm blowing on it. I'm like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden what happens? Everything lifts and it stops raining and the sun cooks us. The ewes come around the corner, make the ram stand up. He turns to me, I'll never forget the image, and I shot him. And I dropped him right there with one shot. But I tell you this is because I wanted to relate those whys to you. And I can't learn those whys. I'm learning whys about this trip still. There's probably 100 more coming. I tell you this, that next time someone asks you, why do you hunt? Or why do you go? Why are you going to go on this hunt? I would challenge you to tell them, I really love to hunt. I want this opportunity. I'm going to tell you why after I get back. That's it.